Hello everyone, welcome to Don't Gasp, it's just JASP, your Learning Lab Tech tutorial. In this video we're going to be going over how to conduct an independent samples t-test here in JASP. If you'd like to follow along, you can use the CSV file we have on our website, download it and import it into JASP. We have a previous video explaining how to do that if you need assistance. But let's go ahead and get into conducting the independent samples t-test. Let's say we are interested in seeing if there's a difference in irritability for students who drink caffeine versus students who do not drink caffeine. So we're going to go ahead and go to the t-test drop-down menu, click Independent Samples t-test. We're going to look at our irritability measure as our dependent variable. Irritability is our dependent, and then we're going to separate it by group. So if we look at our data, we're going to say that Group A are students who do not drink caffeine, and Group B are students who do drink caffeine. Go back to analyses here. Make sure click on student, make sure it's a student t-test. Then we're going to say our formal hypothesis is that there is a difference in irritability based on whether or not students drink caffeine. We're just looking for a difference, so we're going to keep this as two-tailed. So we're going to keep our alternative as does not equal. If we were going to predict that there would be one group would have more irritability than the other, or one group would have less irritability than the other, we could click our one-tailed options here. But we're just looking for a difference, so we're going to keep it as two-tailed. Now, one of the assumptions that we need to look out for independent samples t-test is equality of variances. In this class, we look at Levine's test. So, for Levine's test, we want to make sure that the variances between our groups are essentially equal. And to do that, we run the Levine's test and hope for a non-significant p-value. So if this was a significant p-value, that would tell us that there is a difference between the variances. But because our p-value is greater than 0.05, this tells us that we do not believe there is a difference in variances. That means we can cross off that assumption. We can say that our variances are equal and we can continue forward. So we have our t-test here. We can go ahead and also turn on our descriptives to see our means, standard deviation, standard error, sample size. As you can see, you can have different sample sizes when you're doing independent sample t-tests because they're not paired, they're just different groups. And then we can click on Cohen's d, click on effect size, select Cohen's d. That's typically the measure of effect size we use in this class. Right now, we see that our p-value is greater than an alpha 0.05, which is our go-to alpha, unless stated otherwise. So because our p-value is greater than 0.05, we can see that our t-statistic over here is not significant. So that's telling us that we do not have a significant difference between groups. So the irritability did not differ between students who drank caffeine and students who did not drink caffeine. If you'd want, you can also turn on your confidence interval by clicking location parameter, confidence interval set to 95%. As you can see here, our value predicted by the null was a mean difference of 0. 0 is in the confidence interval because 0 is inside there. That also tells us that there is no difference. It's too similar to our sample mean difference. And then Cohen's d, although not significant, our Cohen's d value, if our result was significant, suggests a small effect size, small to medium, depending on your instructor's guidelines. Again, sign just tells you direction, not strength. You just focus on the value. Again, it differs based off of the instructor. So that's all you would need to know for conducting independent samples t-test. I will also show you something that you may need to do if you do not pass Levine's test. So we'll click independent samples t-test. Let's say our interest is now weight, separated by group. And then click equality of variance, Levine's test. As you can see here, we now have a significant result that tells us that our variances are different from each other. It'll even give you this note here automatically, suggesting a violation. So what you can do when that happens is switch to a Welch's t-test. So that's what you would do if your variances are unequal for the independent samples t-test. Some instructors may have you do that, others might not talk about this test at all, but that is something to be aware of when you're using JASP. But that is all for the independent samples t-test in JASP today. Hope you are finding these tutorial videos useful. Again, you can always come to the Learning Lab if you have any additional questions. Remember, stats are whack, but we've got your back. We hope you have a wonderful day.